Hello everybody, you're welcome to Just for Women Africa, and my name is Olalekan Amusa, the founder of Just for Women Africa. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about soap, how to make soap with our guest, Susu.
Hello, Olekan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Susu is the founder and CEO of Share and Cocoa. She'll be talking to us about the soap industry, why she decided to go into the soap industry, her challenges, her plans for the future, and probably she'll give us her secret into her soap industry.
I'll think about that.
Hello, Susu. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too. All right, Susu. Before we get into Share and Cocoa, could you just tell us briefly about yourself?
Okay. So I'm part Lebanese, I'm part Ghanaian. I've always grown up here in Ghana, so I always refer to myself as an African Arab to start with.
Okay.
I went to school here, primary school, secondary school, but I used to live in Kumasi.
Okay.
So now, how I got into the soap business. At one stage, I was trying to repair my very damaged hair from perming products.
Okay.
So nothing was really working. All kinds of products, nothing was working. It was making it worse.
All right.
And then I just decided to start reading on shea butter and cocoa butter, their benefits. And that's where I thought, oh, maybe I should try to repair my hair with those. That's what got me on this journey. And then friends, when they saw the results, they would reach out to me and say, can you blend something for me? Can you make something for me? So really, it started with me trying to repair my own. It was also a little bit of allergy-prone skin and damaged hair. And this is where I am today.
Oh, amazing.
I'm working with this. I mean, I make a living out of making soap, basically, amongst other skincare products, but mainly soap.
All right. How far ago was this?
So this was maybe around 2015, 2016, but we didn't really do anything about it because I was working for a company.
Okay.
So it was very difficult, in the corporate world to work with, to have a side job and also work for the company. The work I did at the company was very intense. So it wasn't until 2019 and maybe the latter end of 2019 that I really thought, okay, we can do this. We can really try to make a living out of skincare. So that's when we went all out and decided to go as much as possible. We tried to join a few artisan markets. COVID hit the scene and things were very quiet in the beginning. But eventually we joined one or two artisan markets. That's where you go and see incredible work done by a lot of people. Most of it is handmade. And even then it took us a long time to kickstart because people have to know you have to convince them why they should buy your products. And so in the beginning it was giving out a lot of samples and taking our time to explain to people what kind of ingredients we put in the soap. Okay. You see, so you have all kinds of questions like why would you use papaya in your soap? What kind of local ingredients are you using? A lot of people would come up to me and say, we prefer maybe a soap with only local ingredients. Do you use local ingredients in your soaps? And most of the time my answer is yes, because we blend a little bit of we use olive oil, almond oil. We can't get those here. Those are imported products. But as much as possible, we have a range of soaps that are only formulated using our local raw ingredients. Okay,
locally raw ingredients. That's really amazing to hear. Having started a business just because you wanted to repair your damaged hair.
Yes.
Okay, so my next question will be, so did you go to school to learn how to make soap?
No.
How did you get to learn to make soap? I'm really interested.
That's the interesting part. So a friend reached out to me and said, she's heard me talking about the fact that I would like to start making soap because first I was making shea butter products and stuff like that. And she read it on Facebook that somebody was leaving Ghana and put it out there that they are selling a soap kit. Okay. So she gave me the address, we followed up and we bought the kit from the person leaving. And there was an instruction pack in the kit. We read through and I put it down for a while. I didn't do it immediately. But then I started reading up on soap for a whole year. It's because of the issue with sodium hydroxide, otherwise known as lye, otherwise known as caustic soda. That was the tricky part. It's like to think of putting something in soap that you used to pour down your drains if your drains are choked. This is where my thing was like, how are you going to convince people? Then I thought, but I'm not going to be the only soaper in the world. Everyone is using sodium hydroxide to make a hard bar of soap with a process known as cold pressed soap. So I read up a whole year on soap making. Basically, I learned from Google and from Pinterest. I hardly watch videos. I didn't do YouTube videos, and so I would read long articles and people's reviews about those articles, and literally for a whole year. And then one day I thought, I'm ready to start using that kit. So then I read the instructions on the kit, formulated the soap. My opinion was like, okay, it was half-half. Then later with time I learned that it must be the weather as well that affects the kind of soap that we make here. So eventually with time I tried to take maybe a recipe online, reformulate it according to our raw ingredients here, raw materials, and according to our weather. And slowly we started doing the same thing we did with the shea butter. Make a lot of samples, give out to people, wait for their reviews, their honest opinion, no matter, and they were not biased. They were very honest. It's like either it worked or either it didn't work. And slowly we tried to build ourselves from there.
Okay, that's really nice to know. Really nice to know. So basically, learned how to make soap from
the internet, from Google. From Google, yes.
How many trial and errors did you have to do to
actually
become
not too
perfect?
many. Surprisingly, like maybe 4 or 5.
Really?
Yes. Just about 4 or 5, and you know, the interesting thing you learn with soaping is there's never really a bad batch of soap that you throw away.
Okay.
There's something you call rebatching your soap.
Okay.
So if you make a batch of soap and maybe it's too oily, or it's super hard, or you just have water coming out of it or whatever, and you know you cannot use it immediately to bath with, what you do is you melt it down or you grate it down. You make another batch of soap and put this batch in.
Okay.
That's called rebatching soap.
Rebatching
so
soap.
You never throw away soap. Any bad batch goes into a new batch, and then that new batch becomes super perfect.
Okay.
That's what I learned about soap.
We've learned something new today, rebatching of soap.
Yes. So you never throw away a bad batch of soap. You just rebatch it to create a better type of soap.
That's interesting to know. That's interesting to know. All right. So what kind of soaps do you make? I mean, before we started into, we were talking about the soaps you make,
Yes.
the cold press soap and
and hot press soap.
and hot press soap.
Yes.
What's a cold press soap and what's a hot press soap?
Okay. So a cold press soap is a soap that is has a super smooth finish, as compared to a hot press bar of soap. Has a slightly rough edge and rough finish.
Okay.
Only because the processes are different, but the ingredients are the same. So with a hot press bar of soap, I use something called a crock pot, a special kind of pot. You just put you measure your lye and your water. You cool down the solution slightly, and then you measure your oils and you blend the two together in that pot. You set a timer, you stir a few times, you keep checking your soap is ready. After a while, you would test it under running water to make sure you have full lather. And then the process can take maybe anywhere from 45 minutes to 1.5 hours. And then you have this type of soap. So it does not have should I say, a pouring consistency. You basically have to scoop it because it feels like jelly.
Okay.
With the cold press soap, it's the same. You melt your lye in your liquid, but you have to cool it to room temperature. That's the difference. You measure your oils, bring them to room temperature, blend the two together, and then you will use something like a stick blender, or you keep stirring for longer time, depends on the weather. And then you have the kind of consistency like a custard. So that phase of having your consistency like a custard is called trace. So when your soap arrives at trace, you're ready to pour it in whatever mold that's ready to receive the bar. That's why it's usually smoother than the hot press soap.
Okay.
But in terms of properties, I think they're the same.
They're the same.
Otherwise, it becomes a matter of preference. Some people like the roughened look. This is, I mean, if we want to go into the English language, vintage, rustic effects and all these. And this is super smooth. Maybe you have functions, weddings, engagements, parties, souvenirs to make. You really need super smooth bar of soap so that you can do some design elements on top or inside the soap. And that's when people use cold press.
Okay.
But then again, you have some people tell you they prefer a hot press soap to cold press. It's a matter of preference.
That's our preference.
Yes.
But basically, they do the same job on
They
the
do
skin.
the same thing. They clean, they moisturize because they have super healthy ingredients. For example, in our hot press bar of soap, this is one of them. This is my aloe vera bar of soap. I grow aloe vera in my garden. So we blend our aloe vera and we make soap out of that.
Okay.
So you see the interesting color that it has.
Definitely.
You see. And with this one, we also use elements like palm oil, cocoa butter, coconut oil, cocoa powder to get this dark color on the inside.
Okay.
So it's just a case of also being able to design soap. It's easier to design soap when it's a cold press bar of soap. Hot press will end up looking kind of like one way.
Okay.
but has rustic effects. So I have a lot of people who say they like the roughened look because it reminds them of traditional good old, when you say good old fashioned bar of soap, this resembles a good old fashioned bar. Yes, this is more like the type you're afraid to use, you keep on your bathroom shelf to decorate your shelf with.
Yeah.
And along the line, maybe you might think of using it one day. You see?
Let me hold that. Let me see. Okay.
See, so
you're
it's
right.
slightly
This is
rougher,
rough,
and this is smoother.
This is
This
way
is
smooth. So this is cold press,
Yes, and that's hot press.
hot press, cold press, hot press. So the guys, when you go to the market now, you know what you're looking out for. When you come to to order your soaps, you can tell her, oh, you want to
Hot press,
hot press
or cold press bar of soap.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. All right, so all right. So you've been in business for all this while. What are some of your challenges in upscaling your business?
Initially, some of our challenges were I really wanted to come out and make batches of soap that people didn't rely on the scents heavily. You know, when you say a bar of soap to a regular person, they expect some fantastic scent to come out, a scent that smells like the Garden of Eden. But after so much reading and researching, I also learned that most soaps have fragrances, high amount of fragrances blended into the soaps, and that along the line, it could affect your health, especially if you have serious health challenges. Do you see, like you have allergies? And so I tried to formulate a type of soap that maybe were not reliant completely on the scent. Like you wouldn't buy it only because it smelled good, but you would buy it because you are convinced that this bar of soap will solve whatever problem I have on my skin. Along the line, we got into essential oils.
Okay.
Essential oils are plant-based. They are pressed from herbs, from flowers, from spices. And so those ones do cost like 4 or 5 times the price of a fragrance. Fragrances are very easy to formulate because they are formulated in a lab. But an essential oil, you need special equipment to press them from plants. So imagine you need tons and tons and tons probably of roses to come out with 30 ml of roses. So that rose oil is going to be super more expensive than a fragrance. But they are healthier for the skin. They are healthier for you to be breathing them in, especially if you do not react to that particular plant or herb. And so even when we got to essential oils, the price margins also were a challenge because buying essential oils, most of them are imported. So you're still buying an imported product. Maybe your raw ingredients don't cost so much, but your essential oil costs so much. So when COVID hit the scene, the period between where a lot of us were home and that was the time where I focused on a lot more research. Then I had a few people who'd come out and say that I've tried a few of your soaps before and I understand your challenges. People are not really importing essential oils, but please go ahead and make particular bars of soap for me, even if they're unscented. Then that's when I knew that the purpose for which I started making soap has been achieved, because by then I'd gotten to a point where people understood that it's not always about the scent of a bar of soap. It's about the fact that you are convinced that the ingredients of the soap will work to your benefit. Later, you can occasionally buy a bar of soap that has a peculiar scent. If you want a rose-scented one, we'd use rose geranium. If you want a peppermint-scented soap, we'll use peppermint or spearmint to give you that scent. All of them are healthy, also essential oils. But with essential oils, there's only so much you can use in a soap. With a fragrance, people pour, quite, should I say, bigger amounts of fragrance into their soap batches. You can't do that much with essential oils. First of all, it might have an adverse effect because essential oils, they are still pressed from plants that are grown from the earth. And so they're very potent, they're very strong. There's only a particular amount of essential oils you can use directly in your soap batches, or even if you want to put it into shea butter or something so that it smells really good and you can use it on your body. Because you can use essential oils in your body oils, in your shea butter formulations, and you can use them in soap as well. So my main challenge had been trying to convince people that it's okay to use a bar of soap that's unscented and it will still work for your benefits. It doesn't have to always look like a medicinal bar of soap. So some of them look pretty like this one initially, and we left them unscented. Now, as I speak to you today, we have a batch of soap that we use fragrances for, high-end fragrances. We have a batch of soap we make with essential oils, and we have batches of soap that are completely unscented, because we now have 3 categories of customers. So each one buys their preference. Either you buy a bar of soap without a scent, you buy one, you want a fragrance, because fragrances are very diverse. They can create any scent you can dream of. To hear a scent called baby's breath, what kind of scent can you capture in baby's breath, for example? Do you see? Sea breeze, for example. So that you can imagine walking by the beach, for example, and you might pick up a little salt in the air. And so they're able to create interesting fragrances built around those names that they capture them so well.
Okay.
You see, yes. So then they have powdery scents for these baby breath scents, stuff like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So they're able to capture particular scents. That's why it makes it very interesting to use in soap. And you can also blend a little fragrance with some essential oil in your bar of soap, and that's also okay.
Okay. Right. So something good that came out of COVID. You got now two categories
Yes.
of clients.
Yes.
One for the scented and one for
Exactly.
the
One
unscented.
for unscented. Exactly.
That has been some of your challenges.
I think sourcing raw materials and ingredients and packaging, mainly for anybody who wants to break away from the norm of using plastic. Because when I decided that we were going plastic free, our biggest challenge was finding containers and should I say the right kind of packaging to make your product look more attractive. So now, because I try and stick to what I can find locally, so I use a lot more local ingredients. 90% of what we use, even in our packaging and even in our sourcing of raw ingredients, is mainly local. The imported ones would be a few essential oils and things like olive oil and almond oil. So when it came to packaging, we decided, okay, instead of constantly importing these brown paper bags, we're going to recycle newspapers.
Oh, that's a good idea.
So I have a friend who gave me a whole box of newspapers, and I have a young man who's fresh out of school who just happens to have this wonderful artistic talent. So we showed him the sizes that we wanted, and I forwarded him a Pinterest little video on how to cut the paper and glue it together, and that was it. And that's, so he does our packaging. So we use recycled newspapers, and a friend said to me, you can always catch up on the news even as you have your soap in a nice paper bag. We'll show you different sizes we have now. So this is one of the interesting things, that okay, you can't get the kind of packaging you really want, why not just create? So this forced us to recreate something that was unique to Shea and Coco.
What's it actually like doing business as a woman here in Ghana?
Okay, interesting question. I started different things at different points in my life, and the challenge I always had as a woman is people would look at you like with that shock on their face that you're the one who made all this, that you made these. For example, if I bring it down to my soap, many people thought I was importing the soaps and just putting my own label on them.
Really?
And so one day I decided at the artisan market, because that particular morning I'd had like 5 to 7 people ask me, you made these? I said yes. So I came and stood right in front of my table like a customer, and I looked at my table. Then I said to my friend beside me, it's like, wow, now I understand why they're asking me that question. It's like there's so many different things on that table, but I don't know. I think for small batch businesses, well, that's under what I fall, small batch businesses, home businesses, I wanted to be able to control the quality as much as possible and the diversity. I found it boring to not change the style of the soap or the shape of the soap. So with us, every couple of years or every couple of months, we haven't really been running that long, so I'll say months, we like to change the face of our soap just for it to look more interesting. It's a bar of soap you're going to bath with, but you want it to be aesthetically pleasing as well. When you hold the bar of soap, I want you to be able to say, wow, I bought myself a very nice bar of soap, you see. And when you give this to somebody, this is worth more than, should I say, because we know from the reaction we get with our customers, they're like, just that one bar of soap said a lot to the friend I gifted it to. And what happens with us is people go beyond, they take the phone number and they reach out to us, and you wouldn't believe it, sometimes just to say thank you.
Oh.
I received a bar of soap as a gift from you. It's such a beautiful bar. I just want to say thank you. That's all. So some of the challenges have been people used to seeing a stereotype of what soap should look like and sticking to that. And we decided we are breaking that norm because we wanted to get a bit more creative and artistic. Again, it took us a while. So people would walk past, and then there was a group of people who thought that these were candles as well.
Okay.
That they look like candles. So initially it took a lot of breaking in, and trust me, I had the patience. I just talk and talk and talk and talk, and I was ready to answer people's questions just to convince them that first of all, we've used local ingredients. Secondly, we've put some raw ingredients in there, like rice, we have papaya, we even have eggs in our soap. Some of the soaps, we have hibiscus, we have banana. So the question becomes, why am I adding all these ingredients? Why isn't it just plain good old-fashioned soap? If it's plain good old-fashioned soap, we have one bar of soap that's very popular. It's made with 100% coconut oil only. So people expect that if you're using natural ingredients, every bar of soap must have shea butter in it. And although our brand is Shea and Cocoa, it's mainly called Shea and Cocoa because the first two ingredients I started researching on were shea butter and cocoa butter. It's just a broad name to say that anything natural and raw is very good if you dare to use them in your product line or in whatever category of products that you make. So the main challenges again were convincing people that this bar of soap is equally as good as the kind of soap that you've been buying and the kind of soap that you're used to. And this is even better because it has a lot of raw, active, natural ingredients in them.
Okay, that's really interesting. Interesting. Okay, so as we bring the interview to a close, what's your advice to women out there who want to start business like the way you have, but they feel that it's a women's world, they feel that they need money to start a business, they feel they get sexually harassed, they feel that they don't know where to start from, basically?
Yeah, women go through a lot of those things. The advice I'd like to offer would be, if you have an ounce of passion, that alone will drive you to achieve beyond your wildest imagination. Because I started with simply trying to repair my own hair. And where we are today is I've actually quit my corporate job and we're trying our best to grow our skincare business. So all you need is an ounce of passion. Surround yourself with positive people, people who will build you up and encourage you. There might be times you find yourself completely alone. There might be no one to turn to. You might just have to look up there and say, God, I know that you're there somewhere. You have to help me. But you have to keep going. You have to keep pressing on. We continued to do that for many, many months. We saw no results. I didn't give up in any way because I knew that once something breaks through, that's it. So we pushed with the intention that we want to reach our breakthrough point. And once we pushed beyond that, the sky was the limit. So be a bit creative, read up, change your focus on how you look at things. There isn't a stereotype manner of doing business, especially in our part of the world. Just have that ounce of passion that can drive you and push you beyond your wildest imagination, because it's about you, it's not what others think. It's you who will push and drive yourself.
I like that. It's you who push and drive yourself. Women out there, I hope you hear that. You need to. It's you who push and drive yourself. That's a really big statement that's just need to make. All right, so as we bring up the interview to a close, could you just, for viewers who are watching, who would like to contact you, place orders, or even come to you to learn how to make soap?
Oh, yes.
Could you give out your contact details?
Yes, definitely. So you can reach us on Instagram as Shea and Cocoa, Shea and then with an N and then Cocoa. And then you can reach us on WhatsApp or call us on 0244 488 988. Thank you.
All right, guys, thanks for watching Just for Women Africa. Do not forget to like, subscribe, tell your friend who knows a friend about Just for Women Africa. And from Susu and I, to the next show, it will be bye. All right.